The stars had never looked so close, yet felt so far away as they did from the Bridge of the Liberty. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the massive space station grow larger through the main viewport. Kepler Prime hung in the void like a glittering jewel, its countless lights marking the heart of galactic civilization. "First time seeing it in person, Captain," said Dr. Lisa Parker as she joined him at the viewport. Her voice carried a mix of wonder and nervousness that Jake understood completely. After decades of knowing that other intelligent life existed among the stars, humanity was finally making first contact with the powers that ruled space. "Hard to believe we made it this far," Jake replied quietly. Behind them, the bridge crew worked at their stations with focused determination. Every person aboard the Liberty knew they carried the hopes of 8 billion humans on their shoulders. Commander Bill Hughes approached from the communications station, his weathered face showing the strain of the past months of preparation. "Sir, we're receiving docking instructions from Kepler Prime Control. They're directing us to Bay 743. Jake nodded and turned to address his crew. "All right, everyone, this is what we've trained for. Remember, we're not just representing Earth today. We're representing humanity's future among the stars." The Liberty moved slowly toward the massive docking bay, its hull dwarfed by the sheer size of the alien construction. Through the transparent aluminum of the viewport, Jake could see ships from a dozen different species moving through the traffic patterns around the station. Some looked like flowing works of art, others appeared purely functional, and a few seemed to defy any human understanding of aerodynamics or design. "Look at that one," Lisa whispered, pointing to a vessel that seemed to be made entirely of crystal. "The energy readings are unlike anything we've seen before. They've had thousands of years to perfect their technology," Bill reminded them. "We're the newcomers here." The docking procedure took nearly an hour as the Liberty was guided through multiple security checkpoints and scanned by sensors that made their equipment seem primitive by comparison. Finally, with a soft thud that vibrated through the ship's hull, they made contact with the station. Jake straightened his formal uniform and checked his appearance one final time. The clothes felt strange after months in standard ship wear, but first impressions mattered more than comfort today. "Lisa, Bill, are you ready?" Both officers nodded, though Jake could see the tension in their faces. Lisa carried a sealed case containing samples of human art, music, and scientific discoveries. Bill held the formal diplomatic credentials that had taken 6 months for Earth's governments to agree upon. The airlock cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure, and Jake got his first breath of alien air. It smelled strange, with hints of ozone and something floral that he couldn't identify. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal, making each step feel oddly bouncing. A figure waited for them in the docking bay, tall and elegant with pale blue skin and silver hair that seemed to move in a breeze that Jake couldn't feel. "Welcome to Kepler Prime," the being said in perfect English, though with an accent unlike anything Jake had ever heard. "I am Ambassador Silanara of the Etherian delegation. I will escort you to the council chambers." They walked through corridors that curved in impossible ways, past walls that seemed to be made of living light, and floors that felt solid but looked like flowing water. Other beings moved through the passages, some walking, others floating, and a few that seemed to phase in and out of visibility. "The council has been very curious about your species," Silanara said as they walked. "It has been quite some time since we encountered a new spacefaring race." "We're honored by their interest," Jake replied carefully. "Humanity has dreamed of this moment for generations." Silanara's expression was hard to read, but something in her tone made Jake uneasy. Yes, dreams can be quite powerful things. The council chambers were vast beyond anything Jake had imagined. A ceiling disappeared into shadows high above, and the walls curved away in all directions. 12 massive seats were arranged in a circle, each one occupied by a being that represented an entirely different branch of evolution. The center of the circle held a small platform that Jake realized was meant for them. As they walked toward it, he felt the weight of alien gazes from all directions. Some of the council members looked vaguely humanoid, while others were so different that Jake had trouble understanding what he was looking at. Humans of Earth. A voice boomed through the chamber, coming from a towering insectoid creature whose carapace gleamed like polished metal. "I am Chancellor Vextar of the Zephyrian Collective. You have requested membership in our council." Jake stepped forward, his voice steady despite the overwhelming nature of their surroundings. "We have, Chancellor. Humanity offers our knowledge, our creativity, and our dedication to peaceful cooperation among all species." Lisa opened her case and began displaying the gifts they had brought. Holographic projections showed human art and music, mathematical proofs that had taken centuries to develop, and medical discoveries that had saved millions of lives. "These represent the best of what our people have achieved," she explained. The council members examined the offerings with what appeared to be mild interest at best. Several exchanged glances that Jake couldn't interpret, while others seemed to ignore the presentation entirely. "Chancellor," Vextar's mandibles clicked together in a sound that might have been laughter. "Primitive artistic expressions and basic scientific principles. How quaint." Ambassador Silenara leaned forward in her seat, her voice carrying a condescending tone that made Jake's jaw clench. "Your species has barely mastered interplanetary travel, yet you believe yourselves ready to participate in galactic governance." "We learn quickly," Bill interjected, his diplomatic training keeping his voice level. "Given the opportunity, humanity could contribute greatly to the council's work." "Contribute?" Another council member spoke, this one resembling a living tree with crystalline bark. "Your species' history is one of constant warfare and destruction. You have poisoned your own world and turned weapons upon your own kind." Jake felt his temper rising, but forced himself to remain calm. "We've overcome those challenges. Humanity has united under a single government dedicated to peace and exploration." "For less than a century," Chancellor Vextar observed. "A blink of an eye by galactic standards. Your species requires observation and guidance, not participation in matters beyond your understanding." The formal rejection came with cold, bureaucratic precision. Humanity would be permitted to remain in their home system under council monitoring. Any attempt to establish colonies beyond the solar system would be met with force. Trade would be limited to approved goods and rates set by the council. Most importantly, humanity would be excluded from all political decisions affecting the galaxy. "Perhaps in 1,000 years, when your species has matured sufficiently, we might reconsider," Silenara added with what Jake was certain was meant to be a gracious smile. The journey back to the Liberty passed in stunned silence. Jake's mind raced as he processed what had just happened. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, only to be dismissed like children asking to sit at the adults' table. As the Earthship undocked from Kepler Prime, Jake gathered his senior officers in the conference room. The disappointment was visible on every face, but beneath it, Jake saw something else growing. Anger. "They think we're not ready for their table," Jake said finally, his voice quiet but filled with determination. "Maybe it's time we built our own." Lisa looked up from the datapad where she'd been reviewing her observations of the alien species. "Captain, based on what I saw today, I think they might have just made the biggest mistake in galactic history." Jake nodded slowly, watching through the viewport as Kepler Prime shrank to a point of light behind him. "Set course for Earth, Commander Hughes. We have work to do." The Liberty's return to Earth brought news that shook the planet to its core. President Helen Carter stood before the Global Assembly, her face grim as she delivered the Council's ultimatum to representatives from every nation on Earth. The massive hall fell silent as she finished reading the alien decree that would confine humanity to their solar system for the next 1,000 years. "They treat us like children." Senator Ryan Cross slammed his fist on his desk, his voice echoing through the chamber. "We should be preparing our defenses, not accepting their judgment." Dr. Lisa Parker sat in the witness section, still processing everything she had observed during their brief time on Kepler Prime. When called to testify, she approached the podium with careful steps, knowing her words could shape humanity's future. "The council members we encountered are advanced, but they're also stagnant," she began, choosing her words carefully. "They've been playing the same political games for thousands of years. Their technology is impressive, but their thinking has become rigid and predictable." President Carter leaned forward in her chair. "What exactly are you suggesting, Dr. Parker?" "I'm suggesting that they underestimate us," Lisa replied. "They see our short history and assume we're inferior, but they don't understand our greatest strength, our ability to adapt and innovate rapidly." The debate that followed lasted 3 days. Some representatives argued for compliance, insisting that humanity needed time to mature before joining galactic civilization. Others demanded immediate military buildup to resist the Council's authority. But it was Captain Jake Morrison who proposed a third option that would change everything. "We don't have to choose between submission and war." Jake addressed the assembly on the final day of debate. "There's another path. We expand beyond our solar system, but we do it our way. We build our own networks, our own alliances, our own future." Admiral Susan Blake, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, stood to support Morrison's proposal. "The captain is right. Instead of fighting the Council directly or accepting their limitations, we leapfrog over them entirely. We establish human presence throughout space before they can stop us." The plan they outlined was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. Operation Bootstrap would mobilize every resource Earth could spare, focusing on rapid expansion and technological development. Rather than trying to match Council technology, they would develop their own solutions to the challenges of space colonization. Dr. Kevin Walsh, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, was given unlimited funding and resources to reverse engineer the limited alien devices humanity had acquired over the years. His laboratory complex in Switzerland became a hive of activity as hundreds of scientists worked around the clock to unlock the secrets of faster-than-light travel and advanced manufacturing. "The aliens use established patterns for everything," Walsh explained to President Carter during one of their weekly briefings. "Their FTL drives follow predictable routes. Their ships are built to standard designs. Even their weapon systems use the same basic principles. But that gives us an opportunity." "How so?" Carter asked. "Because we don't know their rules. We're not limited by them." Walsh smiled for the first time in weeks. "While they're perfecting variations on ancient designs, we can create something entirely new." The results came faster than anyone had dared hope. Within 6 months, human engineers had developed a new type of FTL drive that was smaller, more efficient, and completely different from anything the Council used. Instead of following established hyperspace lanes, human ships could create their own temporary passages through space-time. Engineer Amy Foster led the team that revolutionized space construction, using techniques borrowed from Earth's most advanced manufacturing plants. She designed automated systems that could build entire space habitats from raw asteroids in a matter of weeks, rather than years. The first test came when humanity established its first colony beyond the solar system. New Montana, a planet rich in rare metals and perfectly suited for human habitation, became the proving ground for everything they had developed. Colony Administrator Mary Kim oversaw the settlement of 5,000 volunteers who would become humanity's first interstellar citizens. "It's beautiful here," Kim reported during her first transmission back to Earth. The delay was frustrating, but her excitement came through clearly. The automated systems worked perfectly. "We have full life support, manufacturing capabilities, and defensive systems online. We're not just surviving out here, we're thriving." The success of New Montana opened the floodgates. Within a year, human colonies were sprouting throughout local space. Each settlement was carefully chosen for strategic value, whether for rare resources, defensive positions, or proximity to alien trade routes. Pete Johnson led the mining operation on Titan VII, where his crews discovered deposits of exotic matter that would revolutionize human technology. The materials allowed for the construction of ships that were faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Council's fleets. "We're not just keeping up with them anymore," Johnson reported to Earth. "We're pulling ahead." The psychological impact on the colonists was profound. These weren't desperate refugees fleeing Earth, but pioneers building something new among the stars. Each colony developed its own character and specialties, but all shared a common purpose, proving that humanity belonged in space regardless of what the Council believed. Back on Earth, intercepted alien communications revealed growing concern among Council members. The humans were moving faster than any species in recorded galactic history. Their expansion didn't follow established patterns, making it difficult for Council forces to predict or counter their movements. "They're like a virus," one intercepted message complained. "Every time we think we understand their next move, they establish colonies in 3 different directions simultaneously." Dr. Parker, now heading Earth's Xenobiology Research Division, studied these communications with growing satisfaction. "They're afraid," she told Morrison during one of their regular meetings. "For the first time in millennia, the Council faces something they can't control or predict." The fear was justified. Human colonies weren't just surviving. They were prospering in ways that challenged fundamental Council assumptions about space. Colonization. Where alien settlements required decades of preparation and massive resource investments, humans could establish thriving communities in months using locally available materials. More importantly, the human colonies were beginning to attract attention from other species. Non-Council races that had been excluded from galactic politics for centuries started reaching out to humanity for trade agreements and mutual assistance pacts. "We're not alone in being rejected by the Council," Morrison observed as reports came, "and of contact from dozens of previously unknown species. There's a whole galaxy of civilizations that have been waiting for someone to challenge the established order." The first formal alliance came when the Helix Collective, a peaceful trading confederation, requested a meeting with human representatives. Ambassador Linda Shaw, a former United Nations diplomat, was chosen to negotiate humanity's first interstellar treaty. "They're offering us full trade rights throughout their territory," Shaw reported after the initial talks. "In exchange, they want access to our manufacturing technology and mutual defense guarantees." President Carter didn't hesitate. "Accept their offer. It's time the galaxy learned that there are alternatives to Council membership." As the second year of Operation Bootstrap began, humanity had established 47 colonies, signed treaties with 6 alien species, and developed technology that surpassed Council standards in several key areas. The rapid expansion had transformed not just humanity's position in space, but their understanding of their own capabilities. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of his new flagship and watched human ships departing for a dozen different star systems. Each vessel carried colonists, supplies, and the growing confidence of a species that refused to accept limitations imposed by others. "Status report," he requested from his communications officer. "All colonies reporting green, Admiral." New shipyards. At Titan VII are ahead of schedule, and we have first contact protocols initiated with 3 more species. Morrison nodded, remembering the condescending dismissal they had received at Kepler Prime. The Council had expected humanity to accept their judgment and remain quietly in their home system. Instead, they had awakened something that would reshape the galaxy. "Signal all ships," Morrison ordered. "Prepare for the next phase of expansion." 3 years had passed since humanity's rejection at Kepler Prime, and the galaxy was beginning to feel the impact of human expansion in ways the Council had never anticipated. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of his flagship, watching real-time updates from 47 human colonies spread across local space. Each blinking dot on the holographic display represented thousands of people who had chosen to build new lives among the stars, rather than accept the limitations imposed by alien authority. The message that would change everything arrived. Tuesday morning, ship time. Colony leader Tom Bradley's face appeared on the main screen, his expression tense with worry and determination. Behind him, Morrison could see the bustling activity of a thriving settlement that had grown from nothing to 12,000 residents in just 2 years. "Admiral, we have a problem," Bradley began without preamble. 3 Corvin ships dropped out of hyperspace this morning and are demanding we evacuate Meridian 4 immediately. Their commander claims this planet belongs to the Corvin Empire and that our presence here is illegal. Morrison felt his jaw tighten. The Corvin Empire was one of the Council's most aggressive member species, known for their militaristic culture and territorial expansion. If they were making claims on human colonies, it meant the Council had decided to take direct action against humanity's growth. "What's their timeline?" Morrison asked. 48 hours, Bradley replied. "After that, they say they'll use force to remove us." Morrison turned to his tactical officer. "How long to reach Meridian 4 at maximum speed?" 36 hours, sir, if we push the engines to their limits. Then we push them, Morrison decided. Signal the freedom and the liberty. We're going to show these Corvins what happens when they threaten human civilians. The journey to Meridian 4 gave Morrison time to study everything humanity had learned about Corvin military tactics. Dr. Kevin Walsh, now serving as chief science officer aboard the flagship, had spent months analyzing intercepted communications and observing Council fleet movements. The Corvins favor massive ships with overwhelming firepower, Walsh explained as they reviewed tactical data. Their dreadnoughts are 3 times the size of our largest vessels, with energy weapons that could vaporize our ships in a single hit. But, Morrison prompted, sensing there was more to the analysis. But they're also predictable, Walsh continued. Council military doctrine hasn't changed in centuries. They rely on intimidation through superior size and firepower, expecting smaller forces to surrender rather than fight. Captain Carol Stone, commander of the battle cruiser Freedom, joined the briefing via hologram from her own ship. Her reputation as a tactical genius had been earned through years of fleet exercises, but this would be her first real combat situation. What if we don't follow their rules? Stone asked. Our ships are smaller and faster. We could use hit and run. Tactics, strike from multiple angles simultaneously. Morrison nodded approvingly. That's exactly what I was thinking. The Corvins expect us to either run away or engage them in a traditional fleet battle. We're going to do neither. When the human task force dropped out of hyperspace near Meridian 4, they found exactly what intelligence had predicted. 3 massive Corvin dreadnoughts hung in orbit above the planet, their hulls bristling with weapon systems. Each ship was easily 5 times the mass of Morrison's flagship, dark and angular, like mechanical predators waiting to strike. Commander Greigtos appeared on screen almost immediately, his reptilian features twisted in what Morrison assumed was meant to be a threatening expression. Human vessels, you will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. This world belongs to the Corvin Empire by right of superior claim. Commander Gryktos, Morrison replied calmly. 12,000 human civilians live on that planet. They've built homes, farms, and communities over the past 2 years. We're not abandoning them to satisfy your territorial ambitions. Gryktos hissed in what sounded like anger. Your species was warned to remain in your home system. Your presence here proves you cannot be trusted to follow galactic law. The Council's law, Morrison corrected, not galactic law. There's a difference. The Corvin commander's response was to power up his ship's weapon systems, energy readings spiking across. All 3 dreadnoughts. You have 1 hour to begin evacuation procedures. After that, we will demonstrate the consequences of defying Council authority. Morrison cut the transmission and immediately opened a channel to his fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. Execute pattern Alpha 7 on my mark. Remember, we're not trying to destroy these ships, just disable them. We want to send a message, not start a war. The human ships moved with precision that caught the Corvins completely off guard. Instead of forming the traditional battle line the aliens expected, the smaller human vessels scattered in all directions, using their superior speed and maneuverability to avoid the massive energy beams that lanced through space where they had been moments before. Captain Stone's tactical brilliance became evident as the Freedom led a coordinated micro-jump that brought 3 human ships directly behind the lead Corvin dreadnought. The aliens had positioned their strongest shields and weapons facing forward, leaving their rear sections relatively vulnerable. Concentrated fire on their engine systems, Stone ordered over the cone. Multiple small strikes rather than single. Large ones, the strategy worked perfectly. While the Corvin ships were designed to withstand massive energy blasts from other Council vessels, their defensive systems couldn't adapt quickly enough to the rapid, precise strikes from multiple directions. Within minutes, the lead dreadnought's engines were disabled, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. Commander Gryktos' second ship tried to turn to bring its main weapons to bear, but Morrison's flagship and 2 escort vessels had already positioned themselves to exploit the massive ship's blind spots. The human vessels moved like a pack of wolves around a much larger predator, striking quickly and then darting away before the Corvins could respond effectively. They're tactical. Systems can't keep up, Dr. Walsh observed as they watched the second Corvin ship struggle to target the rapidly moving human vessels. They're designed to fight other Council ships that use predictable attack patterns. The 3rd dreadnought attempted to retreat, but found its path blocked by human ships that had used microjumps to anticipate its movement, rather than trying to fight their way through. The Corvin captain chose to surrender, powering down his weapons and requesting terms. The entire engagement lasted less than 30 minutes. When it was over, 3 Corvin dreadnoughts sat disabled in space while human ships maintained position around them. Not a single shot had been fired at the human fleet, and casualties were limited to minor injuries from sudden course changes. Commander Gryktos reappeared on screen, his earlier arrogance replaced by confusion and what Morrison thought might be respect. How did you do that? The Corvin asked. Our ships have the most advanced weapons and defenses in the galaxy. Advanced, yes, Morrison agreed, but designed to fight yesterday's battles, not today's. Your weapons are powerful enough to destroy planets, but they can't hit targets that don't follow the patterns you expect. News of the Meridian 4 victory spread throughout human space within hours. More importantly, it reached other species that had been watching humanity's rapid expansion with growing interest. The Helix Collective, humanity's first formal allies, sent congratulations and offers of additional cooperation. 3 other non-Council species requested immediate meetings to discuss mutual defense agreements. Ambassador Linda Shaw found herself busier than ever as species that had been intimidated by Council power for centuries suddenly saw an alternative. They're not just interested in trade anymore, she reported to Earth. They want to know if humanity would be willing to help them defend their territories from Council expansion. Dr. Lisa Parker, now running xenological research from a state-of-the-art facility on New Montana, had been monitoring Council communications since the battle. The intelligence she gathered painted a picture of an organization in crisis. They're calling emergency sessions, she reported to Morrison during their weekly briefing. For the first time in centuries, their military supremacy has been successfully challenged. Some Council members are questioning whether their current policies are sustainable. The psychological impact extended beyond politics. Council species had built their entire worldview around the assumption that their technology and tactics represented the pinnacle of military evolution. Humanity's victory challenged that fundamental belief, forcing them to confront the possibility that their 1,000-year dominance might be coming to an end. Morrison reviewed the battle recordings one more time, noting how each human ship had performed exactly as planned. The victory hadn't come from superior firepower or advanced technology, but from thinking differently about the problem of space combat. Signal all colonies, he ordered his communications officer. Inform them that the Corvan threat has been neutralized. Human space remains free and independent. As reports came in from across human space, Morrison realized that Meridian 4 had marked a turning point. The Council could no longer dismiss humanity as a minor irritation to be contained. They had become a genuine threat to the established order, and both sides knew it. The Council's response to their defeat at Meridian 4 came swiftly and with the full weight of their accumulated power. Chancellor Vextar stood before the assembled representatives of 12 species, his insectoid form radiating fury as he announced, "The most comprehensive military action in galactic history. The humans have proven themselves to be exactly what we suspected." His voice echoed through the vast Council chambers. "They are violent, unpredictable, and dangerous to the stability we have maintained for millennia. They must be contained before their chaos spreads to other species." Ambassador Silenara nodded in agreement, her ethereal features hardened by resolve. "Complete blockade of all human territories. No ship enters or leaves their space without Council permission. We will starve them of resources until they accept proper guidance." Within days, massive Council fleets took position at every known hyperspace route leading to human colonies. The blockade was thorough and seemingly impenetrable, with ships from all 12 member species participating in the largest coordinated military operation the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Jake Morrison received the reports from his command center on New Montana, watching as red warning lights appeared across the tactical display. Every major route between human colonies was now blocked by Council forces whose combined firepower could reduce entire planets to space dust. "They're not taking any chances this time," observed Dr. Kevin Walsh as he studied the deployment patterns. "Those fleets could stop anything we have from breaking through their lines." But Walsh's analysis revealed something the Council had overlooked in their rush to contain humanity. "Admiral, look at this," he said, bringing up a 3-dimensional map of local space. "They're blocking all the established hyperspace lanes, but they're not covering the unstable regions." Morrison leaned forward, studying the areas Walsh had highlighted. The nebula fields and gravity wells that make normal FTL travel impossible. "Exactly," Walsh continued with growing excitement. "They assume we use the same hyperspace technology they do, but our new drive system doesn't rely on stable space-time corridors. We can tunnel through regions they consider impassable." The development of microdimensional tunneling had been one of humanity's greatest technological breakthroughs, created partly by accident when Dr. Walsh's team had been trying to improve on captured Council technology. Instead of following established hyperspace lanes like traditional FTL drives, human ships could create temporary passages through folded spacetime itself. "How long would it take to retrofit our entire fleet?" Morrison asked. Most of our ships already have the new drive systems, Walsh replied. The real challenge is mapping safe routes through the unstable regions. One miscalculation could scatter a ship's atoms across several star systems. Morrison made his decision quickly. Begin Operation Leapfrog immediately. We're not going around their blockade. We're going through the spaces they think are empty. The operation began with small scout ships equipped with experimental sensors, designed to map the chaotic energy fields that made up the galaxy's most dangerous regions. Captain Dan Rivers volunteered to lead the first mission into the Vortex Nebula, a swirling mass of electromagnetic storms that had destroyed every ship foolish enough to enter it over the past 1,000 years. Sensors are going crazy in here, Rivers reported as his ship slowly penetrated the nebula's outer edge. But the new shielding is holding. Energy readings are intense, but manageable. Engineer Sam Mitchell had worked for months developing the specialized shields that made navigation through such hostile environments possible. The technology borrowed principles from Earth's magnetic field generation, creating a protective bubble that deflected the worst of the electromagnetic interference. We're through the outer storm layer, Rivers continued his report. And you're not going to believe what's in here. Exotic matter deposits unlike anything we've ever seen. Enough rare materials to build 1,000 ships. The discovery revolutionized human shipbuilding almost overnight. The exotic matter found in previously inaccessible regions allowed for the construction of vessels that were not only faster and more maneuverable than anything in Council fleets, but also virtually invisible to their sensors. Within 6 months, Operation Leapfrog had established human presence in over 100 star systems that the Council had assumed were empty or unreachable. Each new colony was strategically placed to exploit resources the aliens had written off as too dangerous or difficult to obtain. Trade Administrator Grace Turner coordinated the economic aspect of the expansion, establishing supply lines and trade networks that operated completely outside Council space. We're not just avoiding their blockade, she reported to Earth. We're creating an entirely parallel economy that they can't control or even monitor. The Free Trade Alliance grew rapidly as species after species chose to deal with humanity rather than accept the restrictive trade policies the Council had maintained for centuries. Human-produced goods, often superior to Council alternatives and always cheaper, flooded markets throughout neutral space. The psychological impact on Council member species was immediate and devastating. For millennia, they had believed their technology and economic systems represented the peak of galactic civilization. Humanity's rapid rise challenged every assumption they held about progress, innovation, and their own superiority. Internal tensions within the Council began to surface as member species questioned policies that had gone unchallenged for thousands of years. The Zephyrian military, traditionally the Council's enforcement arm, found themselves unable to locate or intercept human ships that seemed to appear and disappear at will. How are they doing this? Chancellor Vextar demanded during an emergency session. Our sensors show empty space, then suddenly human ships are establishing colonies in systems we thought were uninhabitable. The answer came from an unexpected source. Zaraketh, a brilliant Etherian scientist who had been studying human technology since their first appearance at Kepler Prime, had reached conclusions that challenged everything her people believed about the nature of space travel. They're not using our hyperspace lanes at all, she explained to a skeptical Council. They've developed an entirely different approach to FTL travel that allows them to bypass every defensive measure we've deployed. When Zaraketh requested permission to defect to humanity in order to study their innovations more closely, sparked the first open debate within the Council in living memory. Her departure, when finally approved, carried with it crucial intelligence about Council weaknesses and defensive strategies. The military implications became clear when Admiral Susan Blake launched a coordinated strike against Council supply lines. Using the new tunneling technology, human ships appeared deep within supposedly secure Council territory, disrupting trade routes and capturing strategic resources, before disappearing back into the unstable regions where Council ships couldn't follow. "They're everywhere and nowhere," complained one Corvan general during intercepted communications. "We prepare defenses against attacks from known vectors, only to find them striking from directions that should be impossible." The Battle of Helix Station marked the moment when humanity's new capabilities were fully demonstrated to the galaxy. When Council forces attempted to punish the Helix Collective for their alliance with humanity, Admiral Blake's fleet materialized from what appeared to be empty space to defend their friends. The engagement showcased the evolution of human military tactics beyond even what had been seen at Meridian 4. Small, fast ships working in perfect coordination outmaneuvered and systematically disabled a Council force 3 times their size. The victory was achieved without a single human casualty, while the Council fleet suffered complete defeat. More importantly, the battle was broadcast throughout known space by Helix communication networks, species that had accepted Council dominance. For centuries watched in amazement as the supposedly invincible alien alliance was outfought by humans using tactics and technology no one had seen before. The political repercussions were immediate. 3 Council member species formally withdrew from the alliance within days of the battle, declaring their intention to establish independent relationships with humanity. Others began secret negotiations through intermediaries, seeking trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Dr. Lisa Parker, monitoring communications from her research facility, detected signs of growing unrest within the remaining Council territories. "They're losing control," she reported to Morrison. "Species that have been loyal for thousands of years are questioning whether the Council's leadership serves their interests anymore." Morrison stood in his command center, watching displays that showed human presence spreading throughout the galaxy like wildfire. Each new colony, each successful defense, each technological breakthrough weakened the Council's grip on power and strengthened humanity's position as a viable alternative. "Status report on the Free Trade Alliance," he requested. 47. "Member species and growing," came the reply. "Trade volume has increased 800% over the past year. The Council's economic monopolies are collapsing." Morrison nodded, remembering the arrogant dismissal they had received years earlier. At Kepler Prime. 5 years after humanity's rejection at Kepler Prime, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. Chancellor Vextar stood alone in the Council chambers that had once housed representatives from 12 proud species, now reduced to just 3. Stubborn holdouts who refused to acknowledge the new reality sweeping through known space. The breaking point came when President Helen Carter announced the establishment of humanity's newest stronghold on New Geneva, a fortress world that would serve as the headquarters for a rival government challenging Council authority. The message broadcast throughout the galaxy was clear. Any species tired of Council rule now had an alternative. "This aggression cannot stand," Vextar declared to his remaining allies, the Etherian ambassador Silenara and the crystalline representative of the Nexus Collective. "If we allow the humans to establish this rival authority, our legitimacy will crumble completely." Silenara nodded grimly, her once elegant features hardened by years of watching their empire dissolve. "Gather every loyal ship we can find. If we cannot stop them through individual battles, we must crush them with overwhelming force." The armada that assembled near Council space was the largest military force in galactic history. Ships from the 3 remaining Council species formed a massive fleet that stretched across light years of space, their combined firepower capable of sterilizing entire star systems. Admiral Jake Morrison, now Supreme Commander of the Human Defense Force, watched the enemy formation through the tactical displays aboard his flagship. Intelligence reports indicated the Council had committed everything to this final assault, stripping defenses from their homeworlds in a desperate attempt to destroy humanity's growing influence. "They've got us outnumbered 10-1, observed Captain Carl Stone, now commanding the entire human battle fleet. "Even with our technological advantages, those numbers are intimidating." Morrison studied the enemy deployment with the calm demeanor that had carried him through 5 years of impossible victories. "Numbers only matter if they can bring their weapons to bear effectively. Dr. Walsh, what's the status on our new tactical systems?" Dr. Kevin Walsh, whose innovations had revolutionized human warfare, brought up a holographic display showing the modifications made to every ship in the fleet. "The swarm coordination protocols are fully operational. Every vessel can now operate as part of a single distributed intelligence, reacting instantly to battlefield changes." The concept was revolutionary, even by human standards. Instead of traditional command structures where orders flowed down from admirals to individual ships, the new system allowed every vessel to share information and coordinate responses in real time. The result was a fleet that could adapt and evolve its tactics faster than any enemy could respond. Dr. Lisa Parker, now head of xenological research and psychological warfare, had been monitoring Council communications in preparation for the battle. Her analysis revealed cracks in enemy morale that could be exploited. "They're afraid," she reported to Morrison during the final strategy briefing. 5 years of defeats have shaken their confidence. Many of their crews are questioning orders for the first time in their lives. Morrison nodded, formulating the final elements of his battle plan. "Then we give him something to think about. Open a channel to all Council ships." The transmission that followed would be remembered as one of the most important moments in galactic history. Morrison's image appeared on screens throughout the enemy fleet, his calm confidence a stark contrast to the fear and uncertainty gripping many alien crews. "Soldiers of the Council," he began, his voice carrying clearly across the void between the fleets. "You've been told that humanity threatens galactic peace and stability. But ask yourselves, what peace has the Council brought? What stability comes from a system that denies representation to most of the galaxy's species?" The psychological impact was immediate. Across the Council fleet, crew members who had never questioned their orders began discussing what they had heard. The human message was being translated into dozens of languages, carrying ideas that challenged everything they had been taught about the galactic order. "You don't have to follow orders that serve only the few," Morrison continued. "There's room at our table for everyone willing to build something better than what came before." The response was unprecedented in galactic military history. Even before the first shots were fired, ships began breaking formation and declaring neutrality. Entire squadrons of Zephyrian cruisers powered down their weapons and requested communication with human representatives. Chancellor Vextar's own nephew, commanding a massive dreadnought at the center of the formation, was among the first to surrender. "Uncle, I cannot fight for a system that has brought nothing but stagnation and oppression." His message echoed across all channels. The humans offer hope for something better. The battle that followed was unlike anything previously seen in space warfare. Instead of the massive ship-to-ship engagements that had defined Council military doctrine for millennia, Morrison employed the swarm tactics that had been perfected over years of fighting against superior numbers. Human ships moved like schools of fish, coordinating their movements with impossible precision while avoiding the massive energy beams that could destroy them in single hits. The Council forces, designed to fight traditional fleet engagements, found themselves unable to target enemies that refused to engage according to established patterns. Captain Stone led a coordinated strike that penetrated the enemy formations. Center, her ships moving through gaps in their defensive grid with surgical precision. The attack wasn't designed to destroy the Council vessels, but to demonstrate their complete vulnerability to human tactics. Their command structure is collapsing, reported the tactical officer as more Council ships abandoned the battle. We're seeing mass defections across all enemy formations. The turning point came when the Etherian fleet commander, Admiral Kethmos, broadcast a message to all remaining Council forces. "This battle is over," he announced. "We cannot win against an enemy that fights with ideas as much as weapons. I am ordering all Etherian ships to stand down and request negotiations." With 2 of the 3 remaining Council species abandoning the fight, Chancellor Vextar found himself commanding only a handful of loyalist vessels against the combined might of humanity and their new allies. His final transmission was filled with the bitter realization that an age was ending. "You have destroyed everything we built," he accused Morrison. "Thousands of years of order and stability, gone because you could not accept your proper place." Morrison's response was measured but firm. "We didn't destroy your order, Chancellor. We simply offered a better alternative. Your system was built on exclusion and control. Ours is based on cooperation and mutual respect." The aftermath of the battle reshaped galactic civilization in ways that would echo for generations. The old Council, reduced to a handful of die-hard traditionalists, retreated to their core systems, while the rest of the galaxy embraced the new paradigm humanity had created. President Carter arrived at New Geneva aboard Earth's newest flagship to officially establish the Galactic Assembly of Free Worlds. Unlike the old Council, with its rigid hierarchy and limited membership, the new organization welcomed any species willing to contribute to the common good. The ceremony took place in a massive orbital station that had been constructed using the combined technologies of dozens of species. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness the signing of the Founding Charter, a document that guaranteed equal representation, regardless of a species' size, age, or technological level. Admiral Morrison stood with President Carter as she addressed the assembled delegates, watching ships from across the galaxy arriving to join the celebration. The diversity was staggering. Elegant Etherian vessels flowing like liquid light, sturdy Helix collective traders built for long journeys, and sleek human ships that had proven their worth in countless battles. 5 years ago, we were told we weren't ready for a seat at their table, Carter said, her words broadcast to billions of beings throughout known space. They were right. We weren't ready for something that small. We were ready to build something much bigger. The response from the assembled delegates was overwhelming. Species that had been excluded from galactic politics for millennia now had equal voices in shaping their shared future. The rigid caste system that had defined Council space was replaced by a merit-based democracy that valued innovation and cooperation above ancient privileges. Dr. Walsh, now Director of Technological Sharing Initiatives, established programs that allowed species to exchange knowledge freely rather than hoarding discoveries for competitive advantage. The result was an explosion of innovation that advanced galactic civilization more in 5 years than it had progressed in the previous 1,000. As Morrison watched the bustling activity around New Geneva, he reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior firepower or advanced technology, but by proving that cooperation could achieve more than domination ever could. "Status report on integration efforts," he requested. From his aide, "Excellent progress, Admiral. We now have 417 member species in the Assembly.